Okay, I make a motion to approve the January 14th, 2025 minutes of the meeting.
I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well.
I make a motion to approve the February 11th, 2025 minutes of the commissioners meeting.
And I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Thank you, Steve.
Very good job.
Thank
As
you.
usual.
All right, so 162 A and B up first, is that the?
That's the letter that I sent
The
to you
letter.
guys earlier
Oh, okay,
today.
that's just the letter. Should I have some printouts here?
I can
Once
once
all the emails and everything else that's been just come through the last whatever. But the letters- what do we have to do for that? Just make a motion?
I
to
don't-
approve it, or-
I don't think that you have to. I just
If you
It's, uh,
recall, we talked about this, I believe, in the last meeting
Mhm.
about what we wanted from them.
Yep.
And this is just their agreement of how to proceed.
once I'm done with the updates, I can get you a copy with the date, and you guys three can sign it.
Yep, the T connection for 162 A and B.
To separate the two buildings, with two separate lines.
Yep, so I think Steve just said add the date and we're good to go, right?
Sounds good to me.
We can date this manually. Doesn't really matter, so.
Do we want to sign this tonight now, or?
It's up to you. I mean, I can get you a copy with a typed date on it in a couple minutes if you want, or you can.
Either or.
Either or, we can just,
You can just-
put our date today, whatever.
It's fine. Yep.
We only
Only
do one, right?
Yeah, only one.
Okay.
One copy. Yep.
Put in the file.
Steve showed up.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll make a copy and put it on our files before we mail it.
Okay, so moving right along, Paul is obviously not here.
Oh,
He is.
no, Paul's here. He's on the camera.
Oh, hey, Paul.
Yes, very well.
Sorry about that, can you hear us?
Yes, very.
I forgot, we live in a virtual world. All right, Ben,
Okay, so, am I ready or?
I think we're ready, we're gonna roll right into you, MBT overlay.
Okay. Yeah, I just got a short presentation that I'll go over and honestly what I'm just trying to do I've been meeting with a lot of boards and commissions about this and really just presenting more just as your voters at town meeting and this is scheduled to go to the May 19th town meeting. I just want to be able to show this to you, answer any questions you have, talk about that. So this is the MBTA Community Zoning District, and this was something that the state is requiring that we meet, that we have to comply with, and so at its heart, what it's really trying to do is address the housing shortages, and I'm sure you know that the housing prices are through the roof in Norton and throughout the entire state. You know, this is an attempt to try to build more supply, housing supply, to try to bring that to catch up with the demand and just bring overall prices down. But Massachusetts has some of the highest housing costs in the state, in the country, and of course, when people are paying a very high percentage of their monthly take home for housing costs, that leaves very few choices and certainly hard on savings and other investments. So what the state did was they enacted legislation called the MBTA Communities Act. And Mythbuster number one, we really have nothing to do with the MBTA here, other than we are in the service area, but this has nothing to do with rail stations or rail lines aren't coming this way. But what it does mean is we have to create a zoning district which allows multifamily by right, and we cannot require a special permit in that district. So what we're having to do is we have to create a zoning district that covers at least 50 acres, and the zoning district itself has to allow at least 15 units an acre of multifamily. In our case, what we're going to do is we're going to create an overlay district, which means we keep your base zoning like commercial or R80, and wherever this gets applied, this would be an additional layer on top of it that allows this type of housing, whereas the base zoning doesn't allow it. But a couple important things I want to point out, especially to this board: this doesn't require multifamily to be built, doesn't require anything to happen or change. And most relevant to you is the state went out of its way to say that it doesn't require us to provide any infrastructure to it. So if a project comes along under this, we're not under no obligation to, pay for expansions of, say, sewer to a site. So, and then with us, as I mentioned, in particular, Norton is looking to do this overlay district. So a property owner could choose. Let's say if we're looking at an area where they have commercial zoning, they could choose between building under commercial zoning or building multifamily under this. And again, it's by site plan, not by special permit. So the planning board still gets to review it, but the threshold for approval is much lower. Special permit's a tougher threshold to get. I also want to make very clear, we are not looking at the vacant TPC parcel that was at the last town meeting. I'm going to show you in a few slides the areas that are currently under consideration, and then just talk briefly about the bylaw language itself that the board is still refining, but we're getting close to the finish line here. They still have to do the selection of the parcels and the language. I'm just going to point out here that there was a lawsuit that was settled by the Supreme Judicial Court that says this law is in effect and it's enforceable. It's constitutional. We have to do it. But what I'm going to show you now are there were 4 areas of town that are currently under consideration. And in the next meeting or two of the planning board, they will be making their recommendation to town meeting as to what areas to select. But one of the areas, we had done an event back in December after the town meeting when, some members of the public said we should meet with the public and talk about where we'd like to see it. Well, we had an event, and there were a handful of areas that received more votes than others, and Norton Glen was the number one vote getter. And as John explained to me, there is sewer here, but I believe, John, you said that if there were more development in this area, it probably would result in upgrades to that line, right? So,
Yeah,
but again,
force main. Yep.
we would not be responsible unless we wanted to partner and make that investment. But, Norton Glen, as you can see, is built out. There's 150 units there. These are largely 6-unit apartment complexes. They were built in the 1970s. These are all Section 8 housing, but it's all pretty much built out. And if we were to apply this zoning district here, this could allow potentially more units to be built. Although, based on some of the wetlands in the area and the odd shape of many of the lots, it's probably unlikely we'd see a whole lot more than could already be done. But this was the number one area. Again, it is built out. So we are able to put this district over built out areas. It doesn't have to be on vacant land. It's not town. It doesn't have to, in fact, it can't be town land. But we can put it over private property. Like this one. And so, again, one of the benefits, as I see it, is it has sewer. There's some commercial nearby. This, and in fact, the reality for this site too is it's actually a non-conforming use now, because multifamily is actually not allowed in R80 zoning, and the lot sizes, these are all about 1 acre lot sizes. In R80, you need 80,000 square feet. So these are legal non-conforming uses, but if we applied the district here, this is about 25 acres. This would get us halfway to that goal. This could make them a conforming use. So if they wanted to do improvements and add units there, they could much more readily. Would help if I had gone to, sorry about that. So the number 2 vote getter when we had our meeting was Mansfield Ave. But again, not talking about the TPC parcel here that won Arnold Palmer. We're really looking at these highlighted properties, which are largely multifamily. Like in the center here, these are all quad units. And as you know, you have a sewer line there. Right at the bottom here is the now opened, I guess it's now open, Norton Links. And then as you come up to the top, when you come up to the top, you may know that right up at the town line, these 2 properties here are now owned by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. They were recently approved for development of a training facility. You have Alberto. So there's one vacant parcel and it's next to Alberto's. And then the rest of it's built. And so again, this could be a good area because some of these are older properties as well and maybe in need of redevelopment. The same challenge here is that this area is actually zoned commercial and these residential uses are, again, no longer conforming. But if we applied the district here, you could get, opportunities for some of these sites to redevelop because multifamily would be allowed. This too is about 25 acres. And if we combined it with Norton Glen, we would meet the requirements. There were a couple other areas added. This was the number 4 vote getter was the former Tweeve Mill at 138 Barrow Street. This is actually about 20, it's just a tad shy of 25 acres. This site's a bit different than the others because it's one large parcel. And as you know, there's that vacant mill that's there that I keep hearing that Mass Military Support Foundation is interested in moving in there. They've been working on that for a few years. But this, unlike those other sites, actually has a lot of vacant land here. So if the goal were to add a lot of units, this could be an area to do it. You don't provide sewer. There's no sewer to this site. So I believe it's on, John or Frank, is this on septic or is there an on-site? Is there another type of on-site system here?
They have septic in the front building, but they also had a fully operational wastewater treatment facility with a discharge permit. So that's actually a pretty valuable piece of land.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So, okay, so that system does that system in the back, is that considered functional?
It was when it was in operation. I'm not sure as it declined if they continued with the maintenance or not, but having the basic infrastructure there, more than likely it could just be revamped and brought back up.
Okay. I need to make that note and let the board know that there is an on-site sewer system there. But and last,
they need to verify still on the license though.
Okay. Then the last area that was brought that's still under consideration is Red Mill Village and 274 East Main. Again, this is served by sewer. This is town sewer, correct?
Well, the infrastructure inside the park is private, but the pump station and discharge line are town sewer.
Okay. So all right. So this area, as you can see, also is largely built out. Most of that area you see that's vacant is conservation restrictions. So it would take an act of the legislature to ever free that up. But it's mostly wetland because the Canoe River is right there. This was an area that was added later in the process as we've been working with the public, and there are people who've been attending the planning board meetings that first didn't want us to comply, and then when they realized they had to, then they put they put this out on the table for consideration because of the relative newness of the area and the great shape that it's in. The feeling was, well, nothing will ever get built here, so let's put it here. So that's the rationale for why this was added. Get this alone would get 50 acres, would get us to meet the goal if we needed to do it. If we wanted to go this route, we could do it. And then just moving along. Not going to bore you with the details of the bylaw language, but you know, we're writing the language, and we need to make sure that the multifamily is by right, so it's by site plan. We're also looking at uses, and one of the things we're going to make by right in this district would be top of the shop housing, where commercial on the first floor and then residential above it. And then we're having to get into to finalize the dimensional requirements like lot size, height, setbacks. And then what we're proposing, again, we have to have a minimum 15 units an acre. Well, we're going to cap it at 16 units an acre. That's the max. And that's important because we went to 16 just to put a buffer in. So this whole initiative is about number crunching. The 50 units an acre times 15 units an acre, it's 750 units. So we just want to make sure that we get, you know, from a numerical perspective above that 750 unit threshold that the state mandates. But largely this is a number crunching exercise. And especially when you look at 3 of the 4 areas, they're all built out. I mean, if there's anything, it's probably would be very small scale amounts of change. So, and we're coming to the end. We have a meeting next week with the planning board. It's actually a notice public hearing. And then and this is the process where they start to make their recommendation for town meeting. I would expect they're going to make their decision on April 1st, which is a joint meeting with FinCom and the select board. And then they're going to take it to town meeting on the 19th. I should also point out, and you guys certainly know this, but when we talk about multifamily, we're referring to 3 units or more. So you could have, you know, a triplex on a 10,000 square foot lot, and that's 15 units an acre. I think this is important, especially with a few of the areas that we had where they're smaller lot sizes. We could easily meet the goal of 15 units an acre, but that doesn't mean we need large apartments. We could do it with, you know, triplexes and quads on smaller lots, something that's more, you know, appropriate to the scale of things that are in Norton, you know, versus the larger apartment complexes, which we have a few like Norton Links, but our goal was to try to encourage smaller units or developments than that. And then again, we'd love to see you all, whether you come as a board or as yourselves individually. We'd love to have you come out and come to the planning board public hearings, and I'm sure you guys are going to be there at the May 19th. I'm sure you're going to be there tomorrow night. So I kind of flew through that, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, I have a question. Just curious, would that project from the New England Rodeo qualify to fit under this, or?
Well, I don't remember what its acreage is, but it's not on the table. We can't, you know,
Just
we're past.
just curious. We had it the other day, and it popped into my head.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of areas we could have done. And what we're trying to do is balance between the public, you know, what we've heard from the public is we need some housing, to others who go, we don't want anything anywhere. We were, you know, our intent was also when we had our community event back in December where they dot voted, you know, we wanted to just follow where they told us they wanted to see it. And Rodeo didn't. Yeah, I don't think it even got a dot on it, but it could have, for this purpose, it would have been a great site, especially with what they're proposing. I mean, the difference now would be they have to do by special permit. They could have just done it by site plan.
Right. Just curious.
But one thing I want to mention to you all too, we've heard from a few people that they don't want this in an area where we have sewer. They feel like, especially on Mansfield Ave, where they're like, this is, we should be preserving commercial space. And, what has been said publicly is that they would prefer that be preserved and that, sewer be used more for commercial than putting multifamily on it. So that is something we've heard from some people in the community. I expect it'll be brought up during our remaining public hearings. My point when I've had a chance to speak on this was, well, if we can get more connections, that helps your department. You get more connections, you get more tie-ins. That's better than, proposing putting it in an area where there is no town sewer, or you all don't get the town doesn't get the financial benefits of that. So I just bring that up because that's been stated, more than a few times. Anything
Any
else?
other questions, guys?
Oh, was it always such that, the overlay district could be over existing homes? I thought, I was always under the impression it had to be on undeveloped, land. I didn't realize that it could.
Yeah, no, it's always been, that law was always written to allow communities to put it over built areas. They always said, look, nothing has to happen. It's just, we just want to create the opportunity.
I didn't realize that. I thought it had to be undeveloped land.
Well,
okay.
When we did it, when we proposed that vacant site during the fall, it was just, we were trying to help, put it in an area where we thought if it happened, it would be a good area, partly because it was on sewer. And, multifamily, next to a golf course you see that pretty frequently. And we thought, we would like to take the approach that we could see more housing built to try to help address the housing shortage. But we always had that option of doing in fact, at one point we were looking at doing the similar area that we were proposing, that we're showing now for Mansfield, but we didn't go that route during the last phase. But we certainly heard loud and clear at town meeting to not go with a large vacant piece. So we can do it over built land that's privately owned.
So, the Red Mill Village contingent is planning on going to the hearing next week. But on our.
Glad to hear it.
No, I know, but it's age restricted and therefore it doesn't meet the criteria that you listed in your slide presentation.
Well, the age restriction that you're talking about is, we can't put it in our bylaw that it's restricted to people 55 and over. But I've been actually, Orrin had sent an email to the state, and you'll see there's a confirmation from the state, from the head of the group that reviews the MBTA, is that that's not an issue to them. That the fact that Red Mill's a 55 and over, it would be an issue if we said this district is limited to 55 and over.
We'll still be there.
What was that?
Anything else?
Yeah, a lot of kids.
Said he hopes you have a lot
In
of
fact,
chairs.
I'm meeting with Orrin tomorrow too to go over a few more things. So, or just so you all know, Orrin Sigel he used to be a planning board member. But he's a resident at Red Mill. So he's very proactive.
He is.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Anything else, guys?
Great, thanks, Paul.
So yeah, if you have any questions, you guys know how to get a hold of me, and I'll be happy to answer them. But yeah.
Sounds good, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, John, thanks so much for setting this
Yep,
up.
my pleasure.
You guys have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, you as well.
Bye.
And the reins back over to you, Steve.
You sure?
Yeah.
I don't like to jump on, where are we?
We did the minute. We did 2 minutes and we are right there on number 2.
All right. Meeting minutes?
No,
This
under new
Oh,
business.
this number 2. Oh, number 2 there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did. We
My
talked about the
apologies.
ones- We do Dean Street letter. And
Okay.
We did the minutes.
Gotcha. 225 South Worcester Street project? I know. I left them.
Anyone out there for 225 South Worcester? Ryan?
Hello,
So, hi.
how are you guys?
Very good.
So I don't have much of a presentation. I'd forwarded over from the engineer. He's not available. He has a Conservation Commission meeting. So I forwarded over the plans. We had discussed this at a staff meeting. I'm really just here for any questions you guys have.
They haven't had a chance to review them, Ryan. Usually
no
we
problem.
have, usually, if your engineer is available, we'd have him come in, go up to the board and just give a presentation.
Yep.
Basically,
Yeah, we're a
guys,
ways
what
out.
he's
We're still-
proposing
we're in-
is,
We're in conservation and planning right now. Basically, we're proposing 15 duplexes with a tie-in to the water line. There's no sewer available. It's strictly for water. We do have a secondary access. So we're providing a loop, which I know you guys prefer. So we're really just not looking for any waivers, just your typical tie-in that you guys would allow. And again, we're not in any rush. We're still in approvals with other boards and everything. So we're happy to continue the discussion if you guys haven't had an opportunity to review it yet. So
yeah, did I forward those plans to you guys last week?
Yeah,
I think.
printed them out.
Yeah.
I've got 'em here.
Yeah, so basically it's the land kind of behind the pool place on South Worcester Street, right after the railroad tracks,
yeah.
between at the corner of Dean Street.
Right, right.
So, Tara, had you had a chance to look at those plans at all as far as CC construction, possibly leaving some Ts and clusters there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the packet I sent you.
Okay, I haven't checked my email in 2 days, so I've been a little, but yeah.
Is
It's
this,
pretty straightforward.
is
You
this
can-
supposed to, is this a loop?
Yeah, so there's an easement actually, right next to where the pool place is.
it's not,
Is
it's
that
not an
a-
easement. We own that. There's a 20-foot strip that's owned. So it's
Yeah,
not
and
through
there's
an
like
easement.
trees, it's
Yeah.
a trees there, is that right?
It's
Like-
wooded right
yeah.
now. Yeah, we'd have to clear
Okay.
it, but
Yeah, okay.
if you guys want us to loop it through, that's shown on the proposed plan. I know that's always obviously preferable. So
Now, do you own the lot that kind of has some cars parked there now, or is it the driveway
No.
next to it that you're gonna
no,
run
that's
down?
next to it.
Yeah.
That's next
Okay.
to it. Yep.
Yeah.
So what's our required action in this? Are we just tabling this
I-
until next week?
Yeah, I mean, would you be able to get your engineer here for our next meeting, do you think, at the?
Yeah, probably. He just had a
Okay.
conservation meeting tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sure he could be for the next meeting that you guys have if you want like a more detailed explanation. So
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, they'll take a look at them in the meantime, but
Yeah.
if you could
that way-
come with
again,
a,
it's not an immediate thing where we have multiple permit layers to go through. So
yeah, and if he could bring a full set of plans so we can sign them and have them for
Yeah.
our record.
yeah, I can drop that off. I'll have him print those out and I'll drop them off this week. No problem.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Anything else, guys? Nope. All right, Ryan, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thanks.
10 West Main Street will not be here.
Okay.
At least, I don't think so. There's a ST on there. I don't know who that is.
Yeah. that's kind of low. Okay, so no one here for 10 West Main Street?
No, not this
Okay.
week.
All right, moving on. superintendent or assistant superintendent updates.
So I guess I'll just combine the Elm Street and special town meeting discussion. Tomorrow is the special town meeting for a water and sewer article and a water article. Elm Street is the first item on the agenda. We've had some discussions the past week with Steve and his team and Mike. The select board voted 4-1 to recommend the project, and then the finance committee voted, all but one member voted against it. So it seems like there's a few.
One member voted against, or the?
One member voted for, and all of the rest of them voted against it.
It's unanimous. I heard one say yes, and then they recorded
well,
unanimous against. So,
Yeah.
They were against it.
They were this. So yeah, so the finance committee seems some of them kind of seem split as far as some don't want the residents of Elm Street to bear the cost of the project and betterments, while others are worried that the town could get stuck with the cost of the betterment at 47 Elm Street if that development pulls out, even though there will be a lien on the property. And and like I had said to the select board, it's pretty simple as far as the residents of Elm Street, if it, the only reason that they would be getting a betterment is because they're getting sewer to the property. There is, Steve, I don't know if you want to step in a little about the amendment possibly of what we're looking at for tomorrow night.
Yeah, so I'm chat about that. I mean, at so there's been a bunch of presentations, obviously, been over a dozen times, and this has been presented at various boards. And towards the end, we did present the alternative, seeing clearly that, there's two driving forces. There's that property at 47 Elm, and does the town acknowledge that bringing the sewer makes it marketable? It's a key impediment to being able to develop that property. That's why we have all the grant money. I feel like, I'm sure there are still those that just don't want to see anything done there, but in general, if it was just about that, I feel like it would pass. I feel like we'd be okay. And then the other side of it, and the way I've been wording it lately is, the perception, or, for me, the reality is this a benefit for the residents of Elm Street, or is it a burden, the way it's being done, right? Because the project goes in, the impetus for the project, the driving force is to get sewer to 47 Elm. Applying for the grant, the sell was, and the intent was, we would sewer that whole neighborhood. We'll do the water main, we have to do the entire length to get the fire suppression, the fire pressure that's needed for the proposed development out there. And they can't build much of anything on that lot without a sewer. They can't do it. They can't get the wastewater into the ground there. So instead of just using the grant money to just sewer that property, we never even looked at it that way. We always look at, all right, we're going to bring sewer to that property. How would we do that in this neighborhood? So there is an added cost, or there's an additional cost to bring a sewer that serves everybody, versus just something that would serve the property at 47 Elm. So that's some of the background behind it, and what became clear the more we went on, that, what seems to be leaning this project to not getting approved is people's concerns over the fairness of having to share the residents that get fronted by the sewer, having to pay a betterment and sharing the costs, and then having to tie in that 7-year time frame. Those are really the two things that are driving the negativity on this project at this point, I feel. So we've tried to explain as best we could, how it's done, how it comes to that. The project is going to be paid. The water work can be paid through the water rates, we explained, because pretty much the entire town is on water. You have a large user base. There's already a water main out there. This is an improvement. improvements to the water mains are paid through the water rates. So that piece can be paid through that. So the grant can cover a significant chunk of the sewer work. And then the way the betterments get assessed out there, 70% of the betterment cost is being allocated to that 47 Elm property. So that leaves just 30% of the betterment cost split amongst the residents along the way. So I think we all have to understand, like sometimes there's a lack of understanding that I get that that's still, you tell this to everybody and they're still, but yeah, I still have to pay $10,000 or $12,000. And I have a septic system already. So I get the concerns and the negative feelings about it. But that's how it works. That's the only tools that this commission has to pay for the sewer. If we're gonna bring it in. So this turned into a long discussion, but I got a lot going on in my head leading into tomorrow because it's pretty clear we're walking into kind of a circus tomorrow. It's not clear how tomorrow night's gonna. So we brought up the other option and presented it at several meetings where we strip the gravity sewer, take out the pump station, do the water main over the entire length, and we just run a force main from the property at 47 Elm into your existing system down on Pine Street, at Fillmore. Under that scenario, the residents don't get assessed a betterment. They don't have to tie into the sewer. They can't tie into the sewer. It's not going to be a sewer that's designed or sized or intended for anyone else to tie into. So all the grant money will go to, helping the development of that property and that property alone. And that's the other option that's been discussed. So, and the FinCom, it was pretty clear, at least 4 or 5 of the people that voted no said they would vote, they would support it if it were just the force main.
So which version is actually on the article?
So the full thing is on the article.
Okay.
And so so the way it's being presented right now, so we've had meetings and met with Mike Units and Paul a couple of times. And Mike has given the last 2 presentations and he's gonna give this one. It's the town's project. They're the ones that want it. I've offered to give it. He has a different, so his presentation is quite different than the one that I've been giving. His is just focused on the environmental reasons to do this, the financial reasons to do it, with no discussion on any alternative projects. But he's also talked with town council and the town moderator about the options if somebody chooses to amend the project. So right now it's an $8 million project to do the full-blown project. It will be significantly less to do the other project. I have settled on and recommended that you ask for $6 million under the other project. It should be quite a bit less than that. It should be closer to 5 million. But we don't know. We would have to redesign and rebid. And we're not going back. So I don't want to please anyone on that number. So the different ways to do that is I can't see that it's not going to come up. My take is Mike's going to give his presentation and it doesn't give a lot of the background information because people got sick of hearing all the background information. But my concern or my take is there's going to be a lot of people at town meeting that are hearing it for the first time and they're not going to understand the backup information. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. And I think at some point, we're going to have to get into the discussion, and we should get into, in my opinion, the discussion of the alternative projects so people know that, we're not here to jam something down your throat unless that's what we're doing. We're putting forward what we were charged with doing and what we think benefits everybody. if somebody wants to. See, like, my biggest fear is there are couple of vocal Elm Street residents that are driving in my opinion, are driving other people's determination that the people of Elm Street don't want this. I don't know. There have been emails about people that support it. People that support it aren't vocal. I hate to see the rug get ripped out from under them.
Yeah.
And it just gets switched to a project that doesn't give them the infrastructure. Again, at a cost typical to how this town always does sewers, but a third of what it would be without the grant money and without the heavy contribution from 47 Elm. That's the only reason we can even consider bringing sewer to that property. So I'm giving you the explanation that's been given over and over again, but it still falls back to this sentiment that where the town's paying for this project on the back of the residents is just, I can't get past that.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, that's the case, you know, the will of the people.
I have a couple of questions. Is a TIF in place?
No.
The town did make an arrangement with the developer?
The town's working with the developer, so this keeps getting kicked down
Initially,
the
it was
road.
gonna be done in December.
Yeah, I
Then it was gonna be done by February
This is,
first.
this is why, yeah, we don't have
And I
answers.
told them they're full of shit.
We're out of time on the grant money. So if we wait any longer, grant will expire before we can build the sewer. And without the grant, there's no sense talking about it, because then
Absolutely,
it's a done deal.
right.
So we've kicked it, you know, back in May, it was clear that people weren't ready. There was a lot of other
Right,
stuff going on for town meeting.
absolutely Wasn't ready to go.
Hold the article, said we'll do it in the fall. Then approaching fall. You know, there was all this talk of the TIF in the 11th hour, like everything happens when it's finally time. Then things start moving. So there was movement on a TIF with the potential developer. So they tabled it. They said, we need to work out these details. And the intent of the TIF at that time was to supplement, part of the TIF would be to supplement the betterment cost to the residents. There was some talk of it covering the whole thing. I don't think it was ever gonna do that. I think the true intent was to have the developer kick in some more money up front to lessen the betterments for these residents. And doing it through a TIF, basically borrowing future tax revenues, right? Their whole
Right.
intent was that they would front the money. And then when they develop that property and taxes start coming due, they would get a credit until that was paid down on those future taxes. So it's like the town borrowing future taxes to get this project. Well, the way it finally played out in the end, the way I hear the explanations, so the developer came to the select board meeting. She was at both meetings. At the select board meeting, heard the discussion with her was the driving force behind them supporting it, in my opinion. It was that the developer she has expressed that she is very interested in the property. She's invested a lot of time and money into it. You know, she's got a lot of sunk money into this. She's not walking away. It got explained as a chicken and an egg. She can't get the financing and commit to the project until the town votes for the sewer. They won't give her the financing.
The town won't vote for sewer till they get the.
So we're in this conundrum, and they are working on a TIF. The town has a TIF consultant working with her, and the bigger piece of the TIF. Action to the finance. Is actually, I believe, her bigger costs are to clean up the site. And I think a lot of the big part of the TIF is that she's gonna clean that site up as
Right.
part of getting it developable and wants to recover some of those costs, you know, to get that dilapidated building out of there, get the soils cleaned up, make it safe and environmentally clean again. But she's also willing, if the town's willing, to put more on the TIF up front to help defray the betterment costs if that helps the project go through. But we don't have a commitment. And that's where it just dies, like everyone's like, so this might have. But the select board was optimistic and voted for it. At the FinCom meeting, it didn't really come up. They didn't talk about the TIF. They didn't talk about the potential TIF. I was on the Zoom call. I tried to chime in at one point and just kind of got steamrolled. It just, I don't think they want to hear from
That's
me.
all.
I don't think they want to hear from me
I thought one or two of
anymore.
us, then would have brought that up.
So Paul's making the,
Mike,
Mike is making Paul's making the presentation.
Mike's making the.
Mike is making, okay, Mike's making the presentation. Who's making the amendment?
Nobody knows. So this is where the uncertainty of how it's gonna play. So we've talked about two scenarios for the amendments. One is that somebody makes it, like we introduce the article, present it, the discussion ensues, and then somebody, based on how the discussion's going here, you know, I'm hopeful that the Elm Street residents line up in the mic and tell us what they think, and we can try and answer their questions. But at some point, the discussion of the alternative project will come up. And in theory, someone will make a motion. The question is, do we want to have somebody in place to make the motion to change it? So council is drafting up the language of an amendment article. The other thought that's been out there is if we could get through the whole town meeting, get through the whole article and just vote on it, give people a chance to vote on it. You can recall it with a modification.
Oh, okay.
That seemed to be, so that was another way of doing it. And so my concern that I expressed on that is, you know, the first article just seems to anger people. So you're gonna have angry people. I guess that's town meeting, right? It wouldn't be town meeting if you didn't have angry. But so it gets voted down with no real discussion or consideration of the other article of amending it to be a lesser project. And then somebody would have to make a motion to recall it and second it. And what are the chances that all the people that voted down the first time are just gonna say we're done? And then they'll vote to not reconsider. And then,
Okay. That's
and
the
then-
issue.
and then it's
If they
over.
did reconsider at that
then
point.
if they
then
did
you make an
reconsider
amendment.
it, then it would be,
So you're taking a gamble that you want to get a chance to.
Well, I never got a clear answer also if you can say I want to reconsider it for the point of making an amendment.
I think, so there was another, Mike seems comfortable that we can do that. He talked to the, and I talked to Mike yesterday, so.
Okay.
That could help the vote.
He talked to the moderator. So the presentation that we worked on, Weston and Sampson, you know, we tweaked it again with the intent of using it at town meeting, and it had more of a focus on, we get the issues, here's the different projects. And it was more of a try and, you know, acknowledge we're not here to push anything on you. We're here to get a project built. That's what we were charged. That's what you guys were charged, right? Design a project and put it out to bid.
Absolutely.
And the town, it's up to the town whether they want to fund it. It definitely turns into, you know, you gotta have bad guys and good guys, and I very much felt like the bad guy. Like, you know, we're all the bad guy, and it's not fair, but. And I don't know how to get that sentiment across. So I guess I'm losing my train of thought because there's a lot of moving. parts
So
here.
tomorrow night, you're not, the article's gonna come up.
My understanding is, so Mike is gonna give his presentation, and it's gonna be more of a take it or leave it. This is the project, this is why we're doing it.
So I don't understand how town council is writing the amendments and we don't know what the amendments are.
So Mike said he would get it to us tomorrow, or today or tomorrow. You know, so yesterday I talked to him, he said they would have it either today or tomorrow. And we can talk about, so there's more to talk about there. So I can talk to you about what the proposal is there. Just my concern is not knowing being ready for how to deal with it. Like, should we have somebody ready? And I asked Mike that, and he said probably someone from the select board or the sewer board would move
Well,
make the amendment,
don't
but
you
we need
think
to know
should
what it
know?
is.
The meeting's
Yeah,
tomorrow night.
so I don't know.
I don't know what they.
Last spring, I wasn't at that town meeting, but when they voted on the budget, there was like a multiple choice vote. Something such they did like on an override or no override or half override. Is that something that can be considered for this? Like you vote on the $8 million and you vote on the $6 million?
No, we talked, no, we can't.
No,
I don't think we want to do that.
okay, all right.
I think we continue to make it harder than it has to be. I mean, I have thought about it a lot, if you haven't noticed, and I feel like if we give a presentation that caters to, this is why we're presenting it the way we are, that's why it's still the 8 million, because the FinCom's beside themselves, they voted it down 3 times now, and we keep coming back,
Yeah.
and they just roll their eyes and say, what's changed? And nothing's changed, we have a developer that's a lot further along and is talking a lot more about, I'm
What's-
pretty
what-
sure I'm gonna do
What's
something."
changed is we have to go before the select board 3 times because it hasn't made it to the town meeting floor yet. That's
Right.
why.
Yeah.
It's my opinion that the residents of Elm Street should have an opportunity to vote on the main article.
And I-
The people that support the article that live on Elm Street have their voices drowned out by other people. And it's a heck of a lot easier to put your hand up while sitting in a chair than it is to get out in front of that microphone and talk in front of 150 people. So I think it would be doing this residents of Elm Street a disservice to not allow them to vote on the article that gives them the opportunity to have sewer in front of their property. That's my opinion.
And-
If the board feels differently, the board feels differently. I don't live on Elm Street. I have no dog in the fight. But if I lived on Elm Street and I was a reserved person, I would not be getting up in front of that microphone to talk.
Yeah.
But I can put my hand up when I'm sitting in my chair. That's how I feel about it.
So the danger you have is the motion gets defeated. Then it has to be a vote of reconsideration.
Yep.
Moderator has to recognize that, right? I'm sure he's going to give us the reconsideration speech before the town meeting starts. Then we got to vote to take it off the table, so I have to reconsider it. Bring in the amendment.
I think the only way
So
that
we have to-
I think the only way that's going to work is if when the motion is made to reconsider, the motion is made to reconsider for the purpose of making an amendment to the article.
It just,
I agree.
people already know what
But
the
there's
amendment
another,
is because it's been discussed.
but there's another way of doing it.
How's
Make
that?
the main motion. Vote for an amendment. Have the discussion on the amendment. If the people of Elm Street wants the article, then they defeat the amendment and vote the main article. I mean, that's the way.
That's the other way.
That's true. If you
That
make an
is-
amendment, you
That's
vote on the
right-
amendment
That's
first.
the
and then you
right
go
way
back
of
to
doing it. That's
to
why
vote.
I'm surprised that everything you said, nobody said that's the way we're gonna do it.
Well, that's how I thought we were gonna do, but there's, I mean, there's 2 different ways, right? So I don't think you're gonna get through
If the first-
without somebody asking for us to change it and for someone requesting the amendment.
If the amendment gets proposed and is voted through, can the main article doesn't matter anymore,
Please
correct?
vote, then you vote the main article, but with the amendment.
But
The
then-
amendment,
Exactly.
amendment is done, so you're right. okay?
Right. So if everyone else that's at the town
look
that
at
doesn't
it,
live on Elm Street
like-
says, "Oh, these 2 vocal people from Elm Street don't want it," and vote against it,
And I agree with you that
I mean,
we know better that the people on Elm Street will need the sewer eventually. We know that. But, we've had umpteen town meetings, invited public hearings, invited the residents of Elm Street, they've heard the whole discussion. And there's a number of people who are against the project. Whether or not they're gonna be enough to vote, I don't really know, but,
I mean, my thought was to give the initial presentation explaining that there is another way that we could do it, but that's not what the vote is right now. but we'd like to hear from the people of Elm Street on which way they want to go, but that plays into what John's saying is they haven't spoken at these smaller meetings, where they haven't been coming, they came to the like the first public meeting we had for all of them, they all showed, there were a ton of them there. And most of them didn't like it. At that time, they didn't like it. They didn't understand it and they didn't like it. And I think it softened. We did 2 more neighborhood meetings. And I said it back then, I don't know how to, it's like putting neighbor against neighbor, do we take a straw poll? Do we do a ballot? Do we do some kind of vote? Should we have voted already? And the answer, I don't know how to do that. That's not I'm an engineer. I don't know how to do all of that. But
Steve, in your defense.
Yeah.
I think you and Western Sampson have done a yeoman's job to get it this far. It's really up to
and we all
Town
just need to be
meeting,
fine with that. I
the
just hate that
selectmen
it's
and
gonna
the
go off
town
the
meeting to
rails.
sell this, and if it's successful, great, and if it fails, what can I tell you? We can't do anything more. Okay, what else can you do?
Yeah.
We've met countless number of times with people
Yeah.
at public hearings, at forums, at whatever else. If people have their ears shut off and they don't want to hear about this, nothing they can do about it.
I guess my opinion is it would be easier for us to just propose the amendment right off the bat and vote on it. That would be the easiest thing to do.
You're right, that would be
But
the easy way out.
It's foolish to not have everyone on that road be able to tie into sewer. It's short-sighted.
Yeah.
So for me sitting in the meeting wanting to go home to my wife and kid, yeah, let's propose the amendment. But do I think that's the best thing? No, I don't.
And I don't disagree with that. I know what you mean.
So.
I want to line up at the
and
mic, but
they're
you're right.
liable to
We don't-
end up with nothing, and then I saw at 47 Elm Street forever.
Yeah.
Then that's the decision they'll make.
And a loss of a $3.5 million grant.
Mhm. So based on the tempo of the room, couldn't we have the same article presented as we had planned? I believe it was back in May. We had an amendment that was written, I believe, Steve, I believe you were going to stand up. I mean, if it's a heated room and it looks like it could go
Well,
down.
So Mike's gonna
that the
have
option.
that supposedly.
Supposed to be having it drafted by
Yes, have it.
today.
It's a matter of who presents it. I
Right.
think we need to read the room and we need to know who.
Also, Steve, I think from what Mike had told us, the article wording really isn't going to change. It's just going to
Number.
reduce the dollar amount
Yeah.
because the article just says construction of water and sewer mains. It doesn't specify gravity or force main. It's
So it
just the
would be a
dollar
very
amount.
involved, complicated amendment, really,
So what he
but it doesn't
told
to be
me,
right.
the one thing he told me yesterday is that council advised him to take out any reference to betterments in the revised article. That's fine. Could still be, so then, which means he wants to still use the grant to pay for the sewer. And the water users pay for the water. And there will likely be costs that don't get covered by either. It won't be a lot, but you don't have betterments. So how are you gonna, if you have $500,000 that doesn't come under the grant and doesn't come under the water rates, it has to get paid. And there's language in there that you can use taxes, but every time we bring that up, nobody Mike doesn't seem to want to go that way. Now, if we do it that way, so that means nobody's paying a betterment, including the developer. So when they tie in, they will be subject to the connection fee, which will be more than their betterment was ever gonna be. Unless there are considerations that can be made, so they'll be paying, they'll be paying $2 million between, 1.7, 1.8 million for a connection fee, and then they have to build their own pump station. We didn't build a pump station for them, they have to build it. So under the revised scenario, the town will come out owing very little money in the developer's costs. Which was one of the other issues is it gonna make that property less desirable to have a huge price tag on it? We were trying to keep that number down. So just another thing to think about. I feel like if you leave the betterments on there, then what I thought we would do is use most of the grant to pay for the water work. Keep betterments, but the only property bettered is 47 Elm, so just keep that betterment in that like $1 million range, which is less than what it was under the other scenarios, but it's still there. But that seems to be not the way you want to tell.
That's the email that I.
So is the
responded to
amendment-
The other morning.
So the amended motion, if we get that far, is to build a force main with no pump station on Elm Street?
Correct.
Okay,
And to not assess that.
And to still replace the water main.
Still pays for water.
because I always thought we were just gonna move the pump station, so that
We-
I was under that.
So what,
impression.
we were, and then we thought more about it back in our office and talked with the group. Now why build? Let them build it when they decide what they're gonna do with their property.
No, it makes perfect sense. I just didn't think, I didn't know that.
You know, no, we're gonna build it, no one's
No,
gonna
no,
tie
I-
it.
no, I understand.
Yeah,
I
so
just-
that,
Under the.
no, it saves the town the money now, puts it, and they're gonna build a much smaller.
And to build a pump station, to have it sit there for whatever, doesn't
Right,
make any sense.
so it doesn't make sense.
So a lot of
Yep.
mechanical and vandalism, everything.
So there's not much more we can do right now until we find out what's going on.
So we have to see how it goes tomorrow, so we just
So
need
what
to be
time is
ready.
it? Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock,
Town meeting starts at 7.
What else is on the?
meetings
agenda?
before.
What's the other articles?
We haven't got that far yet.
Yeah, no, I kind of took over.
So the other,
Wait, I'm
the-
not done yet.
the other article, Article 2, is the supplemental funds for the aerator mixer project at the Cottage Street ground tank. It was unanimously approved by the select board after I went up and spoke. And I think the finance committee approved it so fast, I didn't even hear them approve it. It was literally as fast as yeah.
So those funds come out of our account, enterprise fund?
Retained earnings,
What
yep,
retained earnings.
yep,
Okay.
Yep.
So that should be
And,
a starting point.
yes, and it's
Required.
it's required by DEP, which we have that to,
So
if-
there's only
if-
two- There's only two articles?
Yeah, thank
yep.
And what does the town meeting need for a quorum? Do you guys know that?
I was told that the requirement was lifted many years ago because there was such limited participation. I did not confirm that, but that is something I did
you.
hear.
We've had some where there's, I swear there's been fewer than 100 people there.
Mhm.
So I imagine we're all fully on Zoom, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, are we meeting earlier or?
I believe we should, as you
Yeah.
will.
Well, we just-
Well, we're gonna need
The
to,
other boards be
We're gonna
there,
need
but
to.
they wanna-
we gotta see what the game plan's gonna be.
Right, we gotta
I mean, yeah,
So we should meet at 6:30 or whatever?
Sure.
Sure.
I think you've answered all my questions. And again, I know you're frustrated.
Worked up?
Yeah, worked up. You can't,
No, it's,
there's nothing more you can do. I mean, I think we've done as good of a
no,
job
and
as
that,
possible.
that is true. It's unfortunate, but we just have to take it for it. My thing is that the presentation's gonna go the way it is, and then in the Q&A, we're gonna have to then kind of come in and re-educate people. In order to answer the simplest questions, we're gonna have to go way back in time. And
So is Mike going to say that if you have any questions, you're gonna answer the question?
I said, what do you need me for? He said, just answer questions. So,
So I guess the recommendation is just answer the question.
I'll do my best.
And
You might,
instead of-
you might
instead
get
of-
a lot of this. You might get a lot of what you just got.
I would say you just want to answer the question without elaborating on the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
I think you're right in that the amendment's eventually gonna come up in the conversation. There's gonna be a conversation, people are gonna get up there and talk, and it's gonna come up. I don't think the full one's gonna pass with, I think because I think people put more stock in what the FinCom decides than what the select board decides.
Oh, yeah.
I think people are more likely to be select boards, you know, the heck with them, whatever, but the people who won't wanna get up there and talk and just take the advice of the finance committee, I think.
We'll give an
I
opportunity
think
to
inevitably
throw
it's
the
gonna, if
amendment
there's
in
gonna
and
be a
hopefully-
sewer there, it's gonna be the amended version whenever that comes up. And I think you're right, it's better to have the full one, but is it also better to have the amended one or none at all?
Yeah,
Assuming
I-
47 Elm Street's gonna get developed.
Mhm. It's-
And everything's
Well, they
contingent
trash,
on,
They pull out, but.
everything's contingent on that too, with this
Well,
lady.
the
at
sewer
the-
is been an issue, you know, a restriction on getting it. So the other thing that we need to be prepared for that came up before. I thought it was gonna be addressed in this article, but it is not, is the residents that did support it on Elm Street wanted a cap. They wanted to know that if the prices go through the roof, their assessment isn't gonna continue to go up and up and up. They would support it if we capped, we're telling them 12,000.
Right, they
Cap.
don't wanna come back.
They
and say, "Oh,
don't
it's
want it to
actually
be
18,"
more than
something like
12,000.
that.
They want a guarantee.
But that's not all the
And we
residents,
thought-
that's just
So
the
we
residents
told
that
them we
pay
would
it.
address that, and it didn't get in, I sent that language again, and it's not in the article, and the problem is the questions on the other side of it, so that satisfies the residents, so okay, from the town's perspective, the select board, the FinCom, what if it does go over 12,000?
Yeah, who
The
gets,
town has to do it with their.
Right.
So do you want skin in the game or not? And if that's, so if that comes up again, I think that motion needs to be made and then let people discuss it and explain it. To put a cap, I think it's a simple, make a motion, that the language include that betterments will not exceed $12,000. And then someone seconds it, and then that one gets over discussion. That might happen before ideally, if that's gonna happen, that would happen before the discussion of the revised project. Cause then you might get some momentum on the project, you get the people of Elm Street coming up and saying that's.
But even at that.
I support that, I support this project
project.
if we approve this amendment, I don't know, if you get that.
That still has to be written up though, to do it for the
my
floor.
feeling
Right.
that's probably not gonna be coming up.
So we had that one ready to go last time.
But the issue here is, as we all know, is we're not in control of these amendments which are being drafted by council.
They're not drafting that one, they didn't,
That's what I mean, so it's not in there, so the wording has to be very carefully written. Or it won't be approved by the Attorney General's office. I mean, it has to be all informed, that's the problem. You can pass a town meeting and then the Attorney General's office doesn't approve it, yeah, whatever.
Well, at previous town meetings, there were amendments that have been made on napkins. At some
You can
point, the
write
town
anyway.
must,
That's true.
the town must
council will be
step
there,
in to
they need to.
do what they need to do at some
acknowledge
point.
this.
I mean,
Okay,
We'll see what
it's-
happens,
I hear you.
I just don't like we don't know
I know,
where it's gonna go, so
I know.
somebody, and I can't.
There's
I'm not
probably a
doing it.
rule,
I can't do any of
imagine
this, I'm not
that
a
states that
resident.
if you call to make an amendment, it has to be in writing, you have to be given the opportunity to write it down on a piece of paper then, and.
it has to be written.
It has to be written and handed to the moderator.
Right, but
Can it be
are you
typed in? We
afforded the
have to
opportunity
type out
to
one.
be able to write it there
You
on
should
the
give it to the
floor?
moderator.
You should be able to, because you might not know
Yep.
initially you're gonna make an amendment, you might, like, oh, wait a minute, I wanna amend that, give me a piece of paper, I wanna write that.
Yeah.
So there's probably something built into the system, I don't know what it is, but that affords one the opportunity to sit and we're gonna take a few minutes while he writes it up or whatever.
But that's why we had it previously prepared, so that we didn't have to go. through
Right,
this
obviously,
exercise,
that's
And then have
better.
it already to the moderator, so he's at
Do
least a little aware of the potential for this
Mm-hmm.
situation to occur.
And he is aware,
Okay.
because Mike talked to him, at least about the reduced scope article, the reduced price. So I think that plays into getting there early tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Mike during the day. I was gonna ask him to have my presentation on, in case I need to use some of those slides.
It
to
should be
answer some of
ready,
the
yeah.
Questions, so I'm gonna see if I have that.
All right, well, let's talk
Okay.
more about this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And,
Is-
hopefully we'll start with a better game
is
plan.
that early enough? About half hour before, I guess that's enough. I'll be there at 6.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there, it's probably 6 too.
6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 is it.
Yeah.
That works.
All right, John? You want to do the treatment plan updates? Or you want to jump around? It's fine with me.
Well, I'll do the lead and copper updates. We submitted a new lead and copper plan to Mass DEP. We're waiting for review. The discussion that we need to talk about here, and we don't need to vote on it tonight, but I had spoken with you two, Steve, you were away, and I just wanted to have a pulse of how you guys felt before I went into that meeting with DEP, as far as if we can't get the lead and copper results from people, lead and copper samples from people. In the past, DEP has wanted us to give gift cards and whatnot, and we can't do that. So I had spoken to them about if we can't get the bottles from people, possibly doing some sort of bill abatement for the people for the quarter that they're turning in the sample.
Mhm.
Now it's a more of a board discussion as far as do we want to offer that unilaterally, everyone participating in the sampling program gets it, or do we use it as a carrot for people that aren't turning in their bottles for us as a special consideration for each individual case?
I would throw it out there as a first come, first served type of thing.
How do you mean?
All the tier one sites that you have, if you haven't, huh?
We don't have
Have enough?
60 tier ones,
Okay.
no.
Well,
So
then-
we're close. I mean, we're close,
Yep.
but we don't have 60. So, I mean, we haven't been able to make 60. I just added on about 15 tier 3 sites.
Mhm.
With hopes of making it. We were only about 3 short, I think, this past time. So, and a lot of those tier 3 sites, I communicated with the people first before putting them on the list. So the hope is it will work, but as you guys know, we had that.
That's the biggest thing. You can talk
AC
to someone,
Yeah.
you get more.
Yes,
reaction.
yes.
Yeah.
But as you know, we had that ECO meeting with DEP, and they don't want to hear that people won't turn this in the bottles. They want they want to know that we're doing everything in our power to get the bottles back.
Including paying people.
So,
So-
John, you say that DEP says we should offer gift cards. And
Yep.
you say we can't do that.
I mean, we have no way of,
There's no way.
we don't have petty
purchasing
cash or anything
Does
like that.
anybody do that?
Apparently, it's come out of their mouths several times to me, so
Yeah, they
it must.
recommended gift
I think
cards.
it'd be easier to do some sort of abatement.
I
if you-
agree,
if
and
you
less
don't think
expensive
so.
for the
So, I
state
mean,
fund.
you don't have to abate
So-
the whole bill,
So
but
John said whether or not you just give it to the people you're trying to get, or do you do it for everybody who's in the program? Seems to be fear that anybody who does the program should get them.
Yeah, you would have to.
Yeah,
Yep.
if
Kept it from them, and
if
then
anyone who
a couple years
turns in a
later, I find
bottle,
out.
anyone who turns in
I
a
don't think
bottle,
they
I
all
would
should be
think.
treated the same, that they should get whatever you want.
How would we put this word out to people if this is available? Get the extra that we need.
Well, we send out a letter
Put mail
before
out.
before bottles go out. Usually it's just to new people that are new on the sampling plan, but we can easily put an insert in with the paperwork we put out with the bottles or letters
So,
ahead
the
of time.
Rebate or reduction, what are you talking about? What's the number?
I was thinking something relatively small, $20 or $30,
I was thinking
for
25 myself, like,
for the-
that's what a gift card will probably
Yeah.
be anyway, so.
for the quarter that they turn in the sample.
I agree with it. We just, in order to stay compliant, we gotta,
If
That would be
we're being
times the
pressured
60
to
people
do it,
who end up doing
let's
it,
take the
obviously.
incentive to
Send
do
it.
it.
That would be
If we
25
say,
times
"What do
the
you got,
60
$5
people who
gift card?"
inevitably end
That's
up doing it.
Equivalent enough to what a bill makes.
And they want you to have a plan, DEP wants you to have a plan in place by a certain time.
Right, yeah.
And I think that would be the easiest for us. Brooke, was that gonna be?
Yeah,
easy for
I mean,
you?
if you,
It's important to you.
if
Brooke
you,
mad at me.
Something easily done on the bill, on billing?
we would give Brooke a list and she would abate the 60,
According-
you know,
Another task
Yeah.
you have to do.
Yeah, we'll get you more money. We'll get you more money.
and all things considered, all things considered, it's I mean, you're talking about if it was $30 a quarter, 60 samples, I mean, you're talking $4,000 a year total in abatement. So it's not like it's going to be breaking our bottom line by any stretch. So
We're losing more than that with the kind of for water. I mean,
So-
let's just put it in perspective kind of thing. I mean, I think that'll help a lot, I think. And I
So-
think just approaching it that way will be important and hit the people that are are obviously doing it now. And then you got some new tier 3 sites that you can. Is
Yeah.
Goldenwood on tier 3?
No, it has to be before 1983.
I hooked you up.
We also did our meter reading at the beginning of the month. We had a lot of unread meters like we did last time when we read. We're running into an issue where meters are aging out. They're not giving us the readings anymore. It's either the meter or the read box attached to the meter. And meters have become very expensive. And we're only allowed to spend a certain amount per year to buy these because of procurement laws. So I have sent emails to Mike Units to try to get the meters we use to be on the state bid list, meaning we can procure as many of them as we need to without having to meet the state procurement laws because it's already a secured state bid. With the readings that we haven't been able to collect, we have done some read box changes because the read boxes are significantly less money than meters are, but we're still way short on the amount of read boxes we could install compared to the amount of missed reads we have. So
the meters that you changed, just the read boxes, are the meters, they outdated yet? Or are they still?
Some of them are, some of them aren't, but we're not changing a read box, and if it doesn't read, leaving it. We're only,
No,
if
no, I
it, we,
understand.
we,
I just-
you know, we make sure that the read's coming through
I'm saying
before.
that if the meter's there for.
Yeah.
You know, for.
Yeah, usually, I
Haven't
mean,
changed out in a couple of years.
yeah, usually meters, I mean, as long as you're not abusing them, they last a long time, you know? So we've had our crew out this week handing out cards stating that we can't get the meter reads. That's going to trigger a call to our ladies in the office, and they're going to say, right now we don't have the meters to replace them. You're going to get an estimated bill. It won't be any sort of a lot of times if, say, we have a person for 2 years where they get an estimated bill, so we will gradually increase that, so they will call us and have their meter changed. We're not going to do that in this instance. We're just estimating the bill fairly, as what the estimate of what their usage has been until we have meters to replace them with, which won't be until after the fiscal year in July. So
You have no meters now?
we have very few, and we have to save them for emergencies or new builds. So it would be really nice if that the meter could be put on the state bid list, because then you could get as many as you want. 6 come in a case, and I think a case is around $1,800. And we've been able to spend up to $59,000 in the water department budget on that. We did start using some sewer department budget because some residences are both water and sewer accounts, and it meters both water and sewer consumption. So that has given us the ability to get some extra meters, but still not what we need to get. So Frank did put a meter change out program on the most recent capital request that'll be voted on at Maytown meeting. So that would be nice. We'll put out to bid and try to get a bulk order of meters. It may be something, if we can't get it on the state bid list, it may be something we have to do again. Try to get, say $200,000 or $300,000 appropriated, get a base price per meter, and draw down that account as much as we need to. So, the procurement laws are woefully lagging behind the 21st century. I mean, they've been that way for how many decades, Tara? Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, you're talking nothing costs what it costs in 1980. So, so we're dealing with that. Frank, you want to talk?
Write an executive order?
No, I didn't
Okay,
write an
just
executive order. No. Do I have the power to do that? I don't know. I have a big head. I don't know if it's that big though. So, but Frank, you want to talk about the treatment plant updates? You know a little bit more about that than I do.
Yeah, there's been a few issues going down at the treatment plant. Tara can pick up what I miss here. Right when I came back, there was indication that we had another issue with either an under drain or an air blower in, I believe it's filter 5. Last year, I think it was prior to this last year, we had an issue in 2 of the other filters on the opposite side of the treatment facility. All indications are that we have a similar issue going on here. We had media get into the lower drain system. So we have, I believe, we have them on retainer to come out. We just don't have a date yet.
Yeah, so under our contract with an agreement with, Taylor Group, so they'll come out to inspect and take a look at that, clean the filter out, take a look at it. And then if there is some repair work that needs to happen, some of the other 2 filters will make those. So you've got 3 filters that have already been retrofitted in the last year and a half. We knew that these other ones were likely gonna go as well, and we're just in filter 4 now.
Yeah.
So 1, 3, and 5 and 1 train have all been reviewed and repaired, and then this is the basically on listening 4, and then 2 and 6 of them.
Yeah, the intent was to put an article together for the May meeting to appropriate funds for the other 3 filters. This one obviously snuck up on us a little sooner than we expected. The other issue that remains is that the media that we use is currently not available. We've told it's sitting on a barge somewhere in a harbor and is not able to come into port for some reason. So there are many places that are looking for this that are backed up. So even if we get in queue, there's a possibility we may not see it until summer.
Tariff related?
I think it was prior to that. So there's definitely some concern there, and you don't know how much media you've lost until you take the media out.
Right.
Do your repairs, stop bedding everything back. It may be enough that we can still run the filter, or it may not, but you don't know until you repack your filters.
There, look for it.
So that's just an added layer of concern that, it'd be great if we had it sitting there ready to go, but we don't have it. So right now we're running on 5. We'll go from there. So we also had a failure of one of the 2 backwash pumps that we use. I don't believe pictures have been sent. I've been going back and forth with Tara, so I can forward you guys those. We had Frank Sullivan come out for an emergency response, pulled the vertical turbine. The column pipe is threaded column pipe. Upon quick inspection while there, you can actually wipe the threads away with a soft wire brush on any of the threads that were exposed on this column pipe. Everything that was in the coupling or the sleeve that connects the 2, the threads are fine, everything looks great, but the exposed threads have some severe deterioration on them, especially for just being just over 5 years old. So I did send an email. Tara was able to get me a contact from Hayes Pump today. I sent an email to the vice president asking, if there are any known issues with that batch of material that was shipped to us back in 2019, 2020. Every once in a while you do run across that. But it would just paint a better picture instead of spending money on an investigation of the condition of the other pumps and column pipes. We'd rather spend it on, going right towards, all right, we need to purchase, some new 10-inch pipe here, maybe some new 8-inch over here. I'm sure it would pay for one of the column pipes instead of wasting it on the investigation. So
What's that pipe made out of?
it was carbon steel. I
Really?
believe, right?
Well, it should be,
Should be.
so that's what
Really?
it's part of the
Yeah.
issue is just to confirm, number 1, that what was supposed to be
Yeah.
provided was provided.
Right, spec said it was threaded carbon steel. Looking at it, I was questioning the picture. I didn't see it in person. Oddly enough, it looked like ductile iron pipe, but it could have just been the coating in the picture and the angles, but it would be a concern if we were given the wrong product.
So is this offline now?
That one backwash filter, backwash pump is offline. We are running on the second right now. The pump did seize, whether it's related to that or not. They have that out and they assume it's just a bearing, but they haven't confirmed yet. So the pipe was gonna be 7 or 8 days out, and again, no word on the pump. But I would assume it's a pretty standard pump. It's a finished water pump, vertical turbine. Xylem Golds, everybody has them,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
hopefully there's a spare one somewhere. So, unfortunately, the obvious needs to be stated that if we lose the second one and we don't have the first one in place, we're out of luck. We can't backwash
So, how often do you backwash? Once a week or more?
twice a day.
Twice a day?
Do 2 filters. We run 2 filters at a time based on our flows right now, and they do 2 backwashes on them. While that one's being backwashed, we put the second series into action. That obviously drastically changes when we get into the higher demand times. If we do flushing, anything like that, then we typically go up to running 4 filter vessels and offset the backwashes during the non-peak times.
Wow,
And people say we don't do anything.
Jesus.
So definitely in a spot. Hopefully it gets us back to where we need to be sooner than later. Frank has always been great for us. A lot of times he has stuff and he has access to stuff that a lot of other people don't have. So that's why we prioritize everything with him. So
we're
when you're
gonna
not looking, I need the
expedite
keys
and he
to
knows.
the Mansfield facility so I can go pop that pump out.
No, we got a couple of spare. Jeez.
So the discussion, just to continue on what John was saying about the meter reading, we have had discussions with our rep, Joe Coulter. Everybody from the Northeast knows him. We were discussing options with the board. I think this goes back probably over a year ago, for upgrading our drive-by meter reading software and possibly looking at other meters as an alternative. In conversations I've had with Joe, nothing is set in stone, but there is a very good possibility that we will be able to get the ultrasonic meters at the same cost as the PD meters are right now. So I know we're looking to advance and go to the future. Ultrasonic would definitely be the way to go. It has a higher capture rate than the PDs. I don't know a lot about them as far as how they are for longevity, but compared to some of the meters we have that are still operational in town, the basic meter, we've never really had any major issues with it. There's been a few issues with some rotted freeze plates. There's a few issues with some leaks at the base or in the sand casting when they had to take the lead out as was required. I haven't seen a meter yet, but I believe this discussion and some of the other ones that I looked at, they were actually made of composite, not of brass. So that, again, more than likely, if we can get them for the same price, that's a worthwhile upgrade to the system. The only other thing that comes along with that is requiring that there's a jumper wire installed because many homes, electrical services, especially the older ones, are grounded through the water service. So you're going to take away that continuity.
Yep.
So that's just one thing that needs to be discussed with, building inspector and code and see who requires that, because we're not plumbers and we're definitely not electricians. So if that's going to create any type of concern, we want to address that ahead of time.
Right.
But I think, I guess waiting this time might have worked in our favor if we can get a better meter at the similar cost as what we have now. So still working on
Neptunes?
Neptunes.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else I missed?
I don't
Do you
think
have
so.
their reading system too?
It is compatible because of the age of our meters and the age of our system. The end units are the same.
What do you have now?
T
Oh, it's all right. I was just
8,000?
curious, actually.
Yeah.
8,000? Is
It's
it 8,000?
Our system right now is very old. We've actually been holding off on that, like I mentioned, because the town was switching their billing software and there's been some complications with the switch. So there is a possibility they may be looking for a different one. And it didn't make sense to us to switch over, pay to have everything transposed from our existing software to the towns and then just have to do it again. It's a pretty lengthy process and pretty involved. And when we first spoke with the company that they were looking to take on, they weren't really interested in dealing with our system because it was an older system. So it would more work on their end. So obviously the cost would be more. So.
Right. You guys good?
I think so.
Good.
All right. Well, we took a big bite out of what you had to do anyway, Steve.
I got
Oh, jeez. Just kidding. Just kidding. All right, Tara. Please.
All right. So, the aerator project, I think we kind of covered that. So the one thing that I wanted to bring up for today was if it gets approved at tomorrow night's meeting, we'd like to have you guys vote to authorize John and or Frank to, sign off on the notice of intent award so we can get contracts out. So the total amount was, I think, we might have actually talked about this several months ago, but since it's been 3 or 4 months since we did the bid opening, it's a total of $463,000 for the aerator plus alternate A, which was the mixer that we added as well. And that's what we want to make sure that we have, approval to move forward, so we can just not wait a whole another month and just get contracts over to the contractor. So they've extended their bid through the end of March. And so as long as you get the notice of intent to award out before then.
Does that money include any kind of issue inspections and fixing of issues? Okay.
Yeah, so the total that's in their budget is, it includes a thorough cleaning, so we're actually gonna drain the tank.
Mhm.
And this,
Yeah.
instead of what we originally were gonna do, just put it in the wet. We're gonna drain the tanks, power wash down the walls, clean them, do an inspection of that, and then if there are any repairs, the other part of the 100,000 that we're asking for includes, potentially, we've got some buffer there if we find something when the
Okay.
tank's down.
All right. Good.
I don't think it's been inspected without water in it, probably since it was built, that's my guess. So everything's been done usually in the wet, so.
Right.
So that's part of that, and yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, it's required, DEP is really pushing on the, disadvantaged by burn, so.
Definitely.
So hopefully that all passes. That, I guess I was only going to go to the meeting for the,
The Steve show?
watch, yeah, but if you
I
need.
gave it, so.
Yeah.
You got a preview tonight.
So I'm more than happy to go to the aerator meeting for tomorrow for Article 2. You guys need it.
So I make a motion to authorize the superintendent or the assistant superintendent to sign the contract for the aeration project for $463,000.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did I give you what you need?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
That takes the.
So you guys want me to
Not
do
at
it?
all.
Okay, sorry.
Can't hurt, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, considering that passing this is a major hurdle in the ACO process, it wouldn't hurt.
I'd say we would love to have you there.
All right, I'll be there. It's been on my calendar. I've been waiting for months. Okay, so that does get kind of next into the next step with the ACO. So, I know Steve was attending in the last meeting we had with DEP or the first? Yeah.
The last,
The last one.
We had a few calls with DEP just to kind of negotiate back and forth, with the ACO. It's in DEP's hands right now. The intent is for, at least for Mass DEP, that they do plan to issue that, and I thought you would actually get a copy before today's meeting. It's pretty straightforward. We talked about all the dates in here. We're basically pushing almost all of the dates to December 31st of 2026. There's some requirements in here of like asset management plan and updating your capital improvement plan. That's stuff that you're gonna need to have time to put on a town meeting. And obviously we missed the boat for this upcoming May town meeting, but also there's some grant opportunities for asset management. You can possibly apply for 60% being covered by a grant and the rest of it would be under you. So there's some items in here that, we want to look for funding. It's also tied in with our PFAS alternatives analysis that kind of has an overarching water quality aspect to it, as well as taking a look at wells 1 and 2. We're gonna potentially by next meeting, if not a little bit late, the next meeting after that though, there's some extra work that's identified in this ACO that we're gonna just put an amendment towards our PFAS alternatives analysis to cover. DEP mentioned some wells in Taunton, potentially, which if we could pipeline that over to, or either use that treatment plant and pipe wells 1 and 2 over there, or vice versa, it might make it more economically feasible to build a treatment plant on either your property or over at that
Yep.
site to take in, additional flows. You've got a few hundred gallons a minute for wells 1 and 2, and then the Devers wells are, I think one of them is close to 750 and the other one's about 300. So we just need to take it. We're waiting for DP's, their offset filing was getting scanned, so we're waiting for some of that information to come back in. I
Great.
did receive some of it already, but once we have that, we can take a look at it and we can give you an idea of how much it would cost for us to analyze that.
Awesome.
They do want to do a little bit more comprehensive outlook on the THMs, which we're all, in a sense, been very focused on putting the aerator in Cottage Street. That's the main goal here. That is going to, help off gas some of the form. So it's your main contributor. We did a water range analysis like last year, the year before. It's very clear that as the water goes to Cottage Street and then goes towards the the west/northern part of the town, that's where your oldest water range is. So by helping with this, the aerator that, we can get in this winter, next spring, you'll have your results hopefully showing some significant reduction. So we're just trying to take a little bit more of a holistic approach to other alternatives. There was a lot of weird ideas thrown out there. We can add that into our alternatives analysis, but possibly sending well 3 over to Easton to get treated, come back. There's not been a lot of water sharing over the years for stuff like that, but it's not unheard of, and there's options there, especially if you're looking
I have a
at
question.
building a plant. Yes,
The last meeting we had this document from DEP.
yes.
What transpired since February 4th?
So we provided them with a draft with a red line markup and basically changed all the dates that said anything immediate that has to happen in the next 90 days. We pushed out to the end of 2026.
And then this conversation you had about all these ideas, there was a meeting with DEP to,
We had an initial meeting to talk about this, and then we had an official lawyer meeting to talk about
you
this.
go to that?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things about, it's such a thing, Cohasset, we borrowed water from another, we called that something, you called it,
Interbasin transfer.
Well, so there's an intermunicipal agreement you could have
yeah,
for
we called it
But,
something else, it's, trained it, or boosted, or I don't know. we had
Wheeling
some other-
water?
Wheeling, no,
Right.
wheeling.
I was like, I can get there, I can
It's
get there.
called wheeling water, I don't know if you ever heard the term, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes and no. So you would send it in untreated and get it back treated, which is not quite wheeling water, but
Right.
your wheeling water would just kind of be a pass through another community to buy from another, yeah. But there'd be an
So they're
intermunicipal-
talking about doing all these things, it's not easy to do such a thing.
water quality concerns with different types of, so this is these were thrown out by, they're ideas, and if you're looking at an alternative analysis, it can be, this is not feasible due to XYZ. Other items we're just discussing, but when we do our cost analysis on whether or not you want to put a treatment plant somewhere, if you're talking about $10-20 million, purchasing water tends to be a little bit more palatable at that point versus building another treatment plant, having to have staff available. You're gonna have, somebody needs to be assigned as a primary operator. So there's,
So who in the town is aware of this document that we got from DEP?
Is Mike on that call?
Mike is on the call.
Mike's been involved with this.
Has
The legal
he got this
counsel.
With the select,
I do not know who he has shared it with.
well, we shouldn't keep it a secret.
I mean, I did bring it up to the select board in order to, when I was presenting the aerator article for special town meeting.
Did they hear you or did you present it?
Say that again?
Did they hear you or did they?
No, they understood,
They understood,
you know,
okay. I mean,
and nothing's official yet anyway, so
I
until
only
it's,
say that because they are in charge of the town of Norton and they should be aware of this.
oh, definitely. But
They shouldn't be the last to know about it.
we talked about this at last meeting and the decision was
It's
that
important
Mike
that they
Units
know.
is the person that would
I don't
relay
like
that
surprises
information.
and I'm sure they don't like them either, so. They're the boss. So to speak.
Except for when it comes to Elm Street.
Correct. But they should still be the boss. I mean, it's just a hierarchy thing. But, this is a serious document. They have a lot of ramifications. Today, tomorrow, and 10 years from today.
I mean, these are all things that, that the water department has been aware of. It's just now in one comprehensive document with a
Well,
deadline.
okay.
So, yeah.
So what have we seen that you've produced? 'Cause I haven't
So-
received anything, so I'm just.
So we sent our draft into DEP to see if they would approve it. It seemed verbally
seen it?
everything's fine.
Have we seen it?
You guys have not seen
Okay.
it.
Steve
Well,
was-
I don't know what you guys sent.
Steve was on the meeting that we discussed all the parameters on.
So you would-
Until we have an approved draft, there's no point in sending it out.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure that we're all. I've been on vacation, so I just want to get caught up.
Yeah, so your legal counsel has reviewed it, provided some feedback, and then both DEP's lawyer and your lawyer were on that call with the state and
Okay.
us.
That's fine.
So are there any other questions about the ACO in general? I mean, it was just the 4 topics: lead and copper, THMs, PFAS, and then
Manganese.
manganese.
I'm sure you saw the article about the water in somewhere in the South Shore, Marshfield. We have manganese water.
No.
The Globe article. Well,
We're dominant in this area.
It's the whole region, yeah.
I know we've been so distracted with other things to start with the ASR, you guys just reach out. to
Actually,
yourself.
is Lydia still around to help on that? Okay, I started that yesterday, so.
So let's do it
yeah.
end of the month, but.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about the water treatment plant. I think that, just some haze pump, if that's your supplier, if they can get something for you. I think that's your first, Craig can help you out with. At the very least, checking in if there's any other past history, but certainly, for replacement, it's a little different than a well pump thing
Right.
situation. So I think you need to chat with the folks that are actually the reps of Goulds and kind of get in there. Let us know if you need any help with that. As far as the getting Andy Taylor's crew out there, I texted him again this morning. He had that window last Friday, but obviously it was a little short. We're hoping to get out there in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The intent is to clean it out, figure out what the issue is, see how much media might have been lost. And depending on where we're at that point, we can either wait if there's an option to have a potential media delivery. Right now, it's projected to be June. And if not, if you're really antsy to get that 6 filter on, we just basically replacing any of the lost media of Green Sand Plus with Anthracite to get your same backups. And then at a later date, at a point when you want to possibly take a look at 2 and 6, maybe we get back in there in the fall to kind of do some additional work. So,
So 2 and 6 is now money is being appropriated to town meeting.
The plan was to put it on
For three.
for the May meeting to do these 3, the other 3. Unfortunately, I was out. There is a new deadline that came down for the special. So if we can get an article together,
for fall.
no, for May,
There's one on
for
May.
May,
Okay,
yeah,
all right,
it's coming up real soon.
Oh, not tomorrow's, but the special that's embedded.
The special that's embedded in
Yeah,
the
with
day,
you, okay.
correct.
That's a special thing.
I still haven't figured out why they do that.
So you can spend the money right away.
It's
Special town meeting,
Oh,
you can
okay.
use those funds right away instead of
Okay.
waiting till the next fiscal.
Understood.
Why we want to put the vehicles on the special. Think about it, buy them right away.
That makes sense.
Do you have a deadline? Is that like tomorrow
It's coming up. I
Okay,
do not
right.
recall what it is. I'll get it for
though?
you.
Okay. All right, we can talk about tomorrow. I got lots of
Right.
time tomorrow. Okay, so well 4, we're Frank has probably been a little distracted on the other stuff, but we're just working with him on this one. So that's all we're waiting for at this point to kind of take the next step with well 4. South Worcester Street, the intent was assuming the contractor is going to be ready to come back in the spring. There was a request by the contractor to push this off until mid-June or so. A couple different reasons, but for them to have the same crew that did the main line pipe, but also make it a little bit easier to construct while we're really wrapping up with the school season. So we can kind of get into, South Worcester's a little narrow. We are, and are also interested working with Frank and John about this too, but to potentially, we basically called out to do bypass along the entire street, potentially just eliminating the majority of that and just doing the small sections at the railroad crossing as well as the 2 culverts instead. It gives a little bit more space on the roadway and less folks that are on bypass. So it does make it a little bit easier for maintaining bypass, so you don't have as much that's exposed all summer long. But
What did they decide to do underneath the railroad tracks?
we're structurally lining those 3 spots. So the only reason we really definitely have to do bypass is that we're literally going to take those stretches out of service. So the two culvert crossings as well as the railroad, we're just structural lining underneath us, so clean them and structural line.
Will you blow that sock in there, whatever it's called?
You know, I haven't looked at their submittal, I mean,
Just
I've
curious.
staffed it, but, there's a couple different options, but I believe that's you basically inflate a liner more or
Yeah.
less in there. So it's gonna be, you know, instead of cement lining, which you're used to with a ductile iron
Yep,
pipe,
yep.
it's an actual structural, so it bonds with that existing pipe, whatever's left of it, if you will, in some cases. And then you'll have, you know, that's kind of in there for a period of time.
And
Good
it's,
news for
and
that.
it's a straight shot, it's no bends in it?
It can go through some bends, but the
We-
plans show that it's.
We had a
that it's
problem, we
straight,
had a
but
problem with that. We actually were ready to do it over the bridge at 495 and they wouldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not a 90, but like a 11 1/4, some of them can. But this is predominantly a straight shot underneath the railroad. The culvert should be as well.
Yep.
I mean, there's no reason that it shouldn't do that. And the intent would be at a later date, eventually when the town has the funds to replace those culverts, that you would we're gonna leave gate valves so that you can, and with reducers, you can remove those reducers and bring it up to the actual like 8 or 12, I think it's
Good,
12 inch.
good.
Well,
But for now, that one of the culverts is, we're not touching it. Just leave it as is until, there's some potential roadway improvements for that area, or who knows what might come down the pike, but. So the only concern, and I think that's something that we just need to review with, we have not been involved with the ARPA funding that was covering this project. Mike Units has been, and I know that since he's, kind of wrapping up in June, we just want to make sure that whatever he was communicating with the ARPA folks, either we take that over or somebody else at town hall knows what that is and can do it. But I believe all the funds just had to be spent by 2026. But I also don't know what he might have said to them, but we were trying to construct all the water main by the end of this year and then have final paving next year, whether under the town, but well, the intent was to use it under the town's paving with the highway department.
Yeah, I'm sure you answered me, Tara. Like I said, I haven't been able to really check my email. Did you get my email about when paving on East Hodges Street's going to happen?
So their intent was to do it spring. But if there's any repair work that needs to happen, I notified them to just get out
Okay.
there that water department had done some patches and give them a heads up. So they're gonna take a look at that and just see, pressure test and chlorinate and get that up, that little dead end with the hydrant on the end, get that widened up and then, come back, you know, a few months. And again, we can chat through that a little bit more with the other proposed edits when we get a chance or after this meeting. I think that covers the items on my list, unless there's other water questions that just want to delay the wastewater discussion.
All right, that's it.
I think that's it.
Yes, no.
Good luck.
No, I don't have much. Unless you want to go back into the health group. Why don't we save that for tomorrow night? Because I got a lot of energy left for that. So that's it. I want to talk about peer reviews. I actually was delinquent in following up on this. Our biggest issue is there's a couple we haven't been paid by the developers. And I didn't realize it was this far out. So the Balfour Farms one, we sent them an invoice in November 2023.
Wow.
And we, for $5,000, and they never paid that. So we've sent, our people have been sending them emails, we've been sending them emails. I'll continue to do that. I guess my question on that, like the way these are supposed to happen, so we contract directly with them. They send us half of the money up front. Maybe we should just get all of it. Maybe we should switch it to just give the full amount of what it's gonna cost before we do any work. That's one way to do it. Just have them just pay the whole thing. But I think the intent is, what it's supposed to be is either before we give them the final report or before they get their sign-offs to go forward with the work, you guys make sure that they've paid all their bills, that's how we're supposed to be covered. And it usually works. It's just I've got a couple here where it didn't. So that particular one, they were building that project while we were doing the reviews.
Mhm.
That one was a unique one in that we were rushed and got them, you know, edits or comments on the sewer, and we actually helped them build it. I mean, we did a lot for that project. Not help them build it, helped them get their answers quick, because they were already there trying to build stuff.
Mhm.
So do we know, do you deal with those guys? So it was Borderland Engineering, but it's really, it's Al.
It's
All I know
Al,
is
yeah.
Al. I mean, he
Yeah.
was a developer. Is he
Mhm.
doing other work in town? or is
Andrew
he-
Enos? Is that
Yeah.
Andrew Enos?
Yeah, he is still working on that project, so they built
Okay.
one half of the
He's
project.
killer at it.
Yes,
We'll
Yeah.
get the money.
Yeah.
Cause the company wants to go to collections and we get like 50 cents on the dollar. If we hire somebody to go get the money and they get it, then our fee to the collections agency
right. makes
is
sense.
a
Yeah.
big chunk of it. You know, in the grand scheme of Weston and Sampson, $5,000 is not,
Right.
nobody's been
It's not-
chasing me for it, other than it's
Right.
on a list. They keep
Right,
saying, hey,
right.
what's going on with the money? Or they've started things. So anyway, I might need some help. Maybe I'll do the next time email I send to them, say, because they haven't responded to email. They just disappeared.
Hmm.
Al did. So I'll send another one and I'll copy you guys in
Yeah.
and say, you know,
Yeah,
we
can-
need to know what's going on here. My company's talking about going to collections. I don't want to do that. Let's get paid. So I'll do a little more, put some pressure on that one, and we'll figure it out. That's the big one at 5,000. So we have 0 Reservoir Street. That is our last invoice. They paid all of our invoices up until the last one for $1,900 that we sent in May of 24. And they've responded to our email. So basically our contract there was with the engineer. And they pay us when the developer pays them. So the developer clearly has not paid them for this period. And so their response has been, as soon as we get paid, we'll pay you.
Right.
We need to put a little, so who's that, do we know that developer? Like, nothing is happening out there physically, right?
No,
I mean, they went far with the design.
I
They
think
brought it all the way through to the point where.
they've changed it at least once, possibly twice. They might have changed it again. I don't know. That it doesn't seem to be going anywhere fast.
So I don't remember.
Colin
I remember
Colin
the
Campbell was the
engineer.
engineer. That's the only name I know related to it.
Cameron?
Cameron Campbell.
Cameron,
Yeah.
yeah,
What did you take?
and that's DeSel.
I can't remember. Yeah,
DeSel Burke,
Yeah.
so. And they were great. I mean, I just don't ever remember if we had direct contact with the developer, but he's copied on these emails. I think, actually, I have to check that. We might not even have a direct line there. So I'm gonna loop you guys in on that one too.
Yeah.
So that you know what's going on and let them see that we brought this down in. I should have done that a long time. I should have
We
noticed,
should make
flagged these a long time ago.
that before we sign off on the no liens again,
Yeah,
we should make sure that.
and I don't know that you have signed off on that one, right?
We have-
No, no.
Right,
We got it.
that's the problem, they go away, you know, they get to
Right.
this point, so
Maybe
that's
you
why
should
we
get
just
your
need to
money
go
up
for a
front.
better play. Just give the money,
I would,
if they wanna pay it, or they don't.
and let it pay out of an escrow account, that type of thing. Easier that way.
Yeah.
Let you or their money.
Mhm.
Why should you be their bank?
Right, so we'll do better on that. I did follow up, so the Mansfield Ave one, I was a little confused where that stood, so I copied you guys on an email today to them. So it looks like back in November, we had a call with them. We signed a new contract with them. They sent a retainer over right away. So they had sent a set of plans. We did a quick review, sent them an email, had a, well, before we sent the email, we had a little conference call. Then I sent an email, and then 2 days later, he sent plans to us, and I looked quick at them.
They were the
And
old
it didn't
plans.
address, they were,
Right.
they looked to be the same plans I'd already reviewed, so I assumed because he hadn't emailed them to me before, he was just emailing them to me. I already had a hard copy of them. And then I haven't heard anything, which is fine with me, but then I was curious what was going on and I looked more into it, and they did address some of the comments, but not some of the bigger ones. So I sent an email today saying, hey, what's going on? Have you guys heard what's going on with that project? They were hot to go, like everybody, they were
Yeah,
hot.
yeah.
So I sent an email today. I said, listen, you addressed, it didn't look like you had addressed many of my comments, but you addressed this, and this. These 3 things are still outstanding. What's going on? So we'll see if they respond to that. And they've been good about paying, so they're gonna get another bill now, because I spent a few hours on it today. But that's fine. We don't have much left to do on that one. So let's see if they're even still engaged in the discussions. Remember, that's the one that we wanted the gravity sewer.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's now a downhill pressure sewer.
I call it a gravity force main.
That's what it is. So, okay, so those are the peer reviews and the only other, I'll update you just on the school, so we have that project that's gonna get done this summer at the Yale and the high school. Where they're gonna be reconnect those properties to be at the two separate locations we've talked about. So we had a pre-construction meeting, Bruno was there, thank you for sending Bruno, because that was helpful.
Mhm.
Some of the questions about making the connections. So that's gonna happen during school vacation week. There is still some negotiations or discussions going on with the contract, because the schools didn't have enough money to do the whole project like we talked about. We had bid the pump upgrades at each of the schools as alternates, and they didn't have enough money. So we're trying to trade off. So they can do all the pipe separation, they just have to leave the pumps and septic tanks in place right now because their pumps can't handle solids. So we're trying to trade off some of the abandonment work that they were supposed to do at one school to get, we'd like to get the Yale school done, see if we can trade costs somehow in their lump sum price, if that makes sense. Ideally, we'd like to, in the school, would like to see them put a new pump in over there that can handle the solids, pump it out to the street, and then just get rid of all that other equipment, you know, the septic tank and the pump station, so. We'll see. Worst case scenario, they'll just do the piping. I bring that, but the other thing about the schools is they still have to do something at the middle school, and that plays back into the Valentine tool and the restaurant across the street. I think of both, I know Valentine approached you guys, so let's get there tomorrow night, see where Elm Street's headed. And then we should talk more about an approach. I think the first thing would be to, I think the schools should be involved with whatever that project is that happens out there.
There's also an elephant in the room of the
Oh.
finance committee has expressed interest in proposing a new tie-in requirement bylaw.
Yeah.
So that needs to be taken into consideration on any new sewer projects. They don't want people to have to tie in within 7 years.
Okay,
So
and that can't be tomorrow night. That's
can't be
gonna
tomorrow night, but it could be proposed at an upcoming town meeting.
Yeah.
And we have no control over it.
Yeah.
So
They want to just get rid of that portion of the requirements.
they want it to change as it has several times.
Yeah.
So
So they're the finance committee.
Yeah,
They should be making it 5 years.
right.
Right.
I don't think they understand the reason, and again, we always talk about it, it's a town bylaw, so the town has put it in place. But this commission, the sewer department wanted to be in place. I mean, they support it and would not, don't support any articles to change it. Because ideally would have just stayed at the 2 years that it was, or whatever. They changed it to 5 and they wanted to change it to 10, they compromised on 7. I don't think they understand that what the purpose of that is for you to be fiscally responsible. That's the exact
finance
purpose
committee.
for it, is that if you're gonna
Looking at the
expand
finance-
sewers, you should expand your user base.
Exactly,
Not just
Steve.
put new sewers on the backs of the
Yeah.
people that are already on sewer. You know, I said it at several of the meetings, it's not a build it in case you need it infrastructure. We don't spend millions of dollars, we're not gonna go around town putting pipes in every street so that then everybody in the chance, if and when their septic system
The town
fail.
wants to pay
they'll be
for it
able
by
to. Unless the
taxation.
town wants to
Right.
do it that way. That's not how this town.
No, I know, but
Does
they
it?
can't.
I mean,
That's
some
what-
towns do it that way, because they'll
I
go
know.
into, they'll give you case studies, this town doesn't do it, this town doesn't do it, we're the only ones that do it. We looked at 5 other towns, they don't require a tie. The whole town's probably already on sewer, or they do
Yeah,
it with
right.
taxes, they just do it different, or they don't care, or the user rates are just, they don't control the user rates, they just
Well,
go with
as
it.
I said, let them do the
And that,
analysis.
it is what it is, if the
Yeah.
town wants to do that. You guys, you won't go under, it's just, your rate's gonna.
It's only gonna affect the current sewer
They
sewer
just
rate.
need to
That's the problem.
understand that it affects the rates, and that's why it didn't go to 10 years last time, enough people in the room understood that.
Yep.
5, 7, 10 years, that's why, they just wanna get rid of it.
Mhm.
And we were told, we were advised early on in this Elm Street process, get rid of that, and this thing is a slam dunk. Get rid of the tie-in requirement, this will pass no problem. So we could have, somebody could have done that. You guys aren't gonna do it. You're not gonna propose it. That's not.
The rate study professionals advised against it, so we followed
So-
their
Well, it sounds like
recommendation.
that's what they're thinking is they can now go hard, if they get rid of that, then go hog wild with sewer anywhere they want, because they won't have any pushback from anybody in town.
I don't think they wanna build any sewers either. They just, they think they're answering to the people, right? They think they're addressing a wrong that's being done.
Yeah.
To the residents of North.
Are you
I
all
say we don't
done?
lose any sleep.
Are you all
over
done?
it. It is what it is.
Steve, you said-
Yeah. I was done all the time.
So on other business, if I may,
Sure.
we had a resident from Redville Village. He
Where?
came in, Redville Village, he
Oh.
came in twice, the last two meetings, but, and I abstained. He talked about his high water and sewer bill.
Yep.
If you recall, we forgave him on the sewage, and then he called us up again, and he was questioning us about his bill again.
Yep.
I stepped back because obviously I live at Red Mill Village. Anyways, he called me when I was in Puerto Rico and I actually had a conversation with him. And I explained to him again the scenario, and I believe I talked him out of his taking further action. However, before he did that, I suggested in an email to you guys that if we are going to offer a rebate or a reduction, people should sign a document like I drafted, and this probably needs work, but something that they acknowledge that they're gonna get the reduction. They're gonna pay their reduced bill within 30 days, and there's no further action gonna be taken against us.
That's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I drafted this document, as I said, it probably needs, I don't know if you, I said.
That looked good. Didn't look like it needed that much work to me.
All right, so it's just a matter of just stating that the person who's debating this is, agrees in this, I call it a memo understanding that no further legal action will be taken by the person once the water commission has agreed to reduce the bill. And I don't say rebate it, I just say reduce the bill, whatever reason we
For whatever
rebate it.
reason, yeah.
Dated at a meeting that we held and call it a day, so. And I have this signed by the person who does it in the chair, but it could be by the three commissioners, doesn't really matter. But something that we should adopt, and I'll finalize it and I'll prepare it for the next meeting.
Great.
Yep, I had,
Good
great
idea.
idea. So we would make if we made a motion in a meeting to pay a bill or whatever. We would add to that pending them coming in and signing.
Signing this out
This
and
memo.
basically, and then, I don't know if we wanna pay the bill within 30 days or 21 days or whatever it is, but. It's not gonna be dragged on forever and it's gonna be, that's the deal.
We just gotta let them know
we
that
made
you're
a
gonna get out
contract
of
with
this,
these
but you gotta
guys.
come in and sign this paperwork.
No further action on their part. It's gonna say, okay, now I'm gonna sue you because I don't like your answer.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
You can
Great
sue
idea.
us, but we're not gonna give them the reduction.
It's good.
I like it.
Because they're not fair. And we got rules, so we have to follow.
Do we wanna vote on that or we wanna?
No,
wait?
let me,
We'll do it
let me
fine.
draft,
Let me
let me
draft
massage
it
that a
first.
little bit more and I'll
Okay.
present it for our next meeting.
And next meeting, I got April 8th,
I think it's the 8th, yeah.
the 8th. That work for everybody?
April 8th. April already?
Telling you.
Okay, so April 8th. Okay. Why don't I have that in here?
I think I'm good with that.
All right. Well, if there's a problem, let us know. We can always,
No, I don't know why it's not in here. though.
you're gonna charge the Tesla for that thing?
April 8th works.
All right, great. All right, Jim?
Are we waiting for a gentleman to present something or?
No.
He's just a pretty face. that likes to
Okay.
come
You've been patiently waiting in that chair the whole night. I didn't know. 100%.
My name's Kevin O'Neill. I'm running for select board. I just want to know a little bit about the commission. You and I.
Okay.
emailed back and forth.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for your long-winded.
Oh, sorry about that.
You know, appreciate it. How you doing, Brooke?
Good, how are you?
Good.
What did you learn?
I'm sorry?
What have you learned?
A lot.
You know,
Gotta think about it.
there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of stuff we do that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
That's kept secret in town.
Yes.
Well, before we went too much more, I make a motion to adjourn our meeting for this evening.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. And good luck, Kevin.
thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to
Well,
you guys.